Ken Trahan of SportsNoah.com with Lenny Vangilder. Another interesting football weekend. LSU, a ho-hum win over Western Kentucky, doing what they had to do, and nothing really coming out of this game of any significance other than the fact that Jordan Jefferson started at quarterback.
Yeah, and he played the first 3 quarters. We did not even see Jarrett Lee until 12 minutes remained in the game, which all indications are, Jordan Jefferson was the starter, and, is there something more to that? We don't know. It would be interesting to see come this week, Ole Miss back in the SEC, and certainly a week later, Arkansas, a huge game at Tiger Stadium, how Les Miles chooses to play that in terms of a quarterback rotation.
I think you hit it, and that is we don't know everything that goes on within the program. Perhaps there is more than meets the eye there. If not, it's a peculiar move, given the way Jarrett Lee had played all season long leading into the Alabama game, not to see the field at all until the fourth quarter. You got to think that something more is there. In particular, since Jefferson didn't exactly set the house on fire, they struggled a bit on offense for a while in that game.
They did kind of sleepwalk early, and I alluded to it on Friday. We've seen this plenty of times from LSU in non-conference games against teams that they should dominate. It would be real easy to come out and, put the throttle down right away and put a team away early and then coast from there. But LSU seems to do the opposite in a lot of these cases. They let a team hang around for a quarter and a half, and maybe finally put them away in the second half. So that's been something that Les Miles' teams have done before.
Unanimous number 1 AP, first team to do that in a few years, and, of course, still number 1 in the BCS. The Saints with a thrilling 26-23 win over the Falcons in overtime. Everyone's going to talk about the decision by Mike Smith, and rightfully so. What they should be talking about is that Sean Payton is now 9-2 against the Falcons, and he's 5-1 in the Georgia Dome, and I don't care what the margin is. This is clearly a case of a guy having another team's number. It would be 10-1 if Garrett Hartley doesn't shank a 29-yard field goal in the Dome last year.
Exactly, and the Saints have really played the Falcons well here in the Payton era. And yesterday was just a gritty kind of game. It wasn't anything you'd call aesthetically pleasing, but the Saints, both teams really struggled when they got down close. They both put 2 touchdowns on the board, but it could have been a lot higher scoring game than that with the number of opportunities they had to score. But defenses tightened up in the red zone, forced some field goals, and and then of course you had the decisions by Mike Smith. First, the onside kick with 4 minutes left, and then you had the 4th and 1 call from their own 29-yard line, and it all goes back to the fact that Mike Smith, I think, is tremendously afraid of Drew Brees and the Saints offense.
And I get that. The onside kick I thought was ill-advised with 2 timeouts and the 2-minute warning remaining. You're at home. You got to count on your team to be able to get a stop. It's not as though they hadn't gotten one previously, and the Saints should have put it away, had a field goal to make it a 6-point game, but Jimmy Graham, a critical holding penalty to go along with 2 drops in the game. And he didn't have his best game by far, but he still had 7 catches, 82 yards, and a touchdown. Marcus Colston, brilliant game for the Saints. Roman Harper, terrific game. Other than dropping an interception, it would have put the game away for the Saints. And Sean Rogers finally makes a play. Malcolm Jenkins, he's not all that and hasn't been all season long. As for the other decision, Lenny, I don't have any problem with the decision. I don't like the play call. You got a foot to make, sneak the ball, and have your fullback push from behind. How do you miss?
Well, I go back to Saints-Dolphins 2 years ago in Miami. Saints were way behind early in the first half, could have settled for a field goal right at the end of the half, and Drew Brees basically talked Sean Payton and saying, look, we're at the 1-foot line. I can get a foot. And he dove over the top with the football and got the touchdown. And really, that was the start of the momentum turn of that game. A huge game as the Saints went on to win the Super Bowl. You need not even 6 inches in that situation. Why don't you run the quarterback sneak instead of going 5 yards deep in the backfield with a slow-developing running play to hand it off? And give the Saints credit, okay? They did a great job of defending, and clearly Mike Smith thought, hey, we can win this at the line of scrimmage right here. You got a chance maybe to pop a play because they're selling out. Who knows? If you open up a hole, Michael Turner might still be running at this point. But the fact of the matter is the defense won that battle at the line of scrimmage, and the Saints are now a game and a half on top in the division.
2009, Bill Belichick 4th and 2 at his own 28 against the Colts in the playoffs, goes for it, misses it, and a lot of people sided with him after the fact. And, of course, if Sean Payton does the same thing, he'd have people siding with him because he's a gambler. Why? Because these guys have skins on the walls. They've won Super Bowls. Mike Smith doesn't have that.
Has he even won a playoff game?
Well, thank you. I mean, that's what we're talking about, is proven versus unproven. Smith, to his credit, takes the full blame afterwards. Again, my problem isn't with going for it, it's with the call. Slow developing running play against a goal line defense where people are shooting gaps in 10 men at the line of scrimmage. I don't get that.
No, not at all. And, I mean, obviously people will spend a lot of time talking about it in Atlanta for the next week. New Orleans will be talking about a bye week.
Yeah. And by the way, as we close, to me, when you look at what happened after that, it just illustrates why Sean Payton is so important to the Saints. Regardless of who calls the play, whether it's Carmichael or Payton, his presence on the sideline, enormous. The Saints don't settle for a 40-plus yard field goal. They run Ingram once for 3, and then what do? Play fake and throw to Jed Collins, of all people, out of the backfield for 12 yards to make it a gimme field goal. And, oh, by the way, Ingram then runs hard and gets 8 more yards after that to really make it a gimme. So, again, play calling important. Confidence in your team, expressing it important, and execution most important.
Well, you talk about with Payton, Payton said it after the game, that play was not even on his play card. He just went back to something that he felt like was going to work in that situation. It wasn't even in the game plan for this week. They called it. It turned out to be a big play to get him down closer.
That's why he's an awfully good coach. 16 rushing attempts in the game, and that ties a record for the fewest rushing attempts in a ball game in which the Saints have won, right?
That's right. I mean, they've only, amazingly, and I mean, we talk about run-pass balance, and this is why, in the history of the Saints franchise, they have won a grand total of 4 games in which they've run the ball 20 times or less. 16, they only got to 16 yesterday because the game went to overtime. I think they had 13 in regulation.
Mm-hmm. And they still win. Point being, you need balance to win consistently. But when you're not running it effectively, especially when you're indoors and you have Drew Brees, don't force yourself to run the ball. If you're not running it effectively, you can win the game without it, especially if you don't turn it over. For Lenny Vangilder, I'm Ken Trahan. Glad to have you with us. Don't forget, it's Sports Nola TV, 6 p.m. Monday evening on WHNO Channel 20. You want to watch it with Brian Alley Walsh, Torrance Small, Renee Nato, and myself on Sports Nola TV, 6 p.m. Monday on WHNO Channel 20. Thanks for joining us. Have a great day.